I just did a video on a woeful lack of unpreparedness, really an epidemic that we find ourselves in, and it's not our fault necessarily. The last 100 years have been some of the most exponential technology growth in human, well, it is the largest exponential curve, hockey stick curve of growth in technology in all of human history. So we tend to find ourselves a little bit unprepared, unable to fend for our own food, unable to fend for ourselves, to keep ourselves safe. Awareness has gone down. Attention span has gone down. Just reading. I just saw a stat the other day that humans on average right now, adults, at least in the Western America, read 15 to 17 minutes a day, leisurely 15 to 17 minutes, when the average screen time is like 7 to 13 hours a day. That doesn't bode well. It makes me think about 10 years from now, 40 years from now, 100 years from now. How does this pan out? How does this play out? How does the epidemic of broken homes, broken families, mismatched families, how does that play out over the next 50 years? Those families having kids of their own, and then those kids parenting those kids, really only going off of what they have learned from the people above them. How does that turn out? As Bob Proctor always has said, your parents, you can't blame them necessarily, right? You can hold people accountable for sure, and you can only give what you've been given at the end of the day. And they're doing the best with what they had, is what he always says. And it really is the truth. We have to understand that. We have to be aware enough. And I'm going to do some videos, actually, some whiteboard videos about awareness and about the great drawing that he has. That he got from someone else, I believe. But understanding, being on one side and then ignorance on the other side. When you don't understand, you don't know, it causes disease and it causes disintegration eventually, and anxiety and stress. But when you have understanding and awareness and knowledge, and you lead that into hope, and you lead that into ease and prosperity and abundance, it's a very different world we live in. And it's easy to be negative as human beings, and it's easy to kind of get away with what makes us great and what makes most people good in this world of fiat debasement, in this world of destructive currencies that people are taking others' time and energy away from them without them even knowing it. And that's why people are lashing out the polarization, division, and the hate. And I was just thinking about this preparedness issue and people not being prepared. This is insurance buying time, the time that's not, things aren't going crazy, and this is the time to get prepared. And the real thing I wanted to say again was that you have things like Wall of Satoshi getting removed from U.S. users, basically. Bitcoin wallet, and I'm not going to go into details of that necessarily. You can look into it, but custodying funds and having a wallet that would hold users' funds, and this wallet is now no longer going to be in the U.S. And it's a brain drain, a very real brain drain that we are seeing here. There's a Canadian company as well, I forget the name now off the top of my head, but they're leaving because of this FinCEN proposal and these proposed regulations. Not even regulations yet, I don't believe, or not law. And people just doing things just because. And this is not to condemn Wall of Satoshi or other companies. Companies have to work in their own best interest and do what they think is best. But the brain drain, we will be behind the curve. America's always been ahead of the curve in all innovation and technology, and we are starting to slip behind the curve in many areas, whether it's education now for decades, food, agriculture, and really quickly slipping behind the curve here. And we have many problems, but this now, technology, is starting to slip behind the curve. And we are seeing companies and people leaving the country. Now, that's the thing with Bitcoin as well. When you own Bitcoin and have the 12 or 24 word seed phrase is where you own your wealth, you can own your wealth in your head. We saw it in Ukraine. We saw people in distress take their USB drive, basically, take their cold storage wallet, or take the 12 or 24 words in their head. All you have to do is memorize the 12 words or the 24 words, and that's your seed phrase, that's your wallet, and you walk to the next jurisdiction that is friendly to you, or that is not having war. And we saw that play out. We saw the Canadian truckers, that happen. Same thing. Legacy bank accounts, fiat bank accounts, frozen. Bitcoin, only thing that worked. This is not going to end well. Are we prepared for what is coming? Because the system is not going to, naturally. And I think, Sam Callahan, I just talked to Sam Callahan, and you can watch that interview. And he even said, and BJ Dichter, we do the political Bitcoin hour with him as well, led the Canadian trucker convoy. And he always talks about Hanlon's razor and don't prescribe malice to what can be attributed to stupidity. And Sam Callahan basically had a very similar framework for it as well. So we have to be prepared for what's going on, because government's going to government. They're going to do what they're going to do. And there's many people in the government that think they are doing the right thing. And that is a scary proposition. But we have to be very cognizant of that. We have to be aware, and we can't be ignorant to it. And that's why it's so important, I think, to get into Bob Proctor, Napoleon Hill, the Brian Tracy's, the Jim Rohn, the personal development, truly understanding, getting a good sense of our brain, our mind, our conscious and our subconscious mind, understanding what's actually happening. Because there's so much going on, it's hard to take in. And we're only reading 15 to 17 minutes a day, which, reading makes you creative. Reading slows you down. Reading is meditative. It's prayer-like, it's meditative. And when you, at least from my own experience, and you might have a different one, but every time I read, I sit there and read for a while, 10, 20, 30, an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, you get so calm and you're so refreshed and you're thinking at such a different level. And I'm not talking about 50 Shades of Grey here, but I'm talking about real, actual books. It could be, fiction, but nothing, not crazy stuff. I'm talking about things that make your mind smarter and make you better. So we have to get prepared, because we are in a cultural war, a misinformation war. We're in kinetic war. We are in bio wars. We are in every war you can imagine. You might not like war, but war likes you. And we, as a people, don't understand that, because we live in 2023, in the 21st century. And how could things happen now? We're so down the line. We're so far down the line, and we're so smart and intelligent, building our towers of Babel everywhere, where we're going to cure everything. We're going to do everything. We're going to fix all the wrongs of the world. And we're human. We still have to understand that. We're capable of unbelievable things. We still have to understand who we are and have the awareness of who we are. So things like Wall of Satoshi leaving, it's not to, companies are going to do what they're going to do. Governments are going to do what they do. But the people, the individual, the sovereign individual has to understand, has to buffer themselves, and has to get prepared for what is coming. The attacks that are going to come at every single level, and they're already started. We're in the then they fight you stage. The sovereign individual is in the fight, and then they fight you stage. We are there. Get some securities, guns, ammo, firearms, water, food. Very simple things to do. Get your Bitcoin out into cold storage, outside of the system, off exchanges. Buy a little bit of gold and silver, maybe physical assets, actual things, actual tangible things. I think the moral of the story is bearer assets here. That's the big thing. And community. Community is the number one thing by far. Building your online community and building your physical community, your ranchers, your sheriffs, your farmers. Your sheriffs are there to uphold the Constitution and work for you. And building your community, people around you. So that way and these are as much reminders for me to continue developing relationships as they are for you. And selfishly, it's why I do these things. It's also why I'm doing these things for my children as well. So I can document these things. And hopefully someone else gets something out of it too. So people can only do what they do. Let's worry about ourselves and put our mask on first. And if we're all doing that, we're going to be much better off for it. So condemning other companies for doing things, or condemning government, that's great. We have to vote with our wallet, our voice, our feet, in their actual vote. But we have to make sure we are taken care of first. Because if we're doing that, if 1%, 5% of people are doing that, the world starts to change very quickly. Please share this out. The algorithm hates truth. Question everything with boldness, even the existence of God himself. This is not financial advice, it's freedom advice. And trust what I'm saying, but please verify. I'll see you on the next one.